Let's talk about Inside the NBA, because Inside the NBA has been getting cooked over the last couple of days because of some comments that Charles Barkley has made outside of the show, also comments that he's made within the show. So for those who don't know, Charles Barkley says the Inside the NBA crew isn't happy with their lack of appearances on ESPN. This was on the Dan Le Batard show. When I was talking about working all the time, I'm not going to do all these damn shows. I'm not going to be on ESPN 1, 2, 3, Deportes, Nacho, Echo, whatever they call it. I'm not going to do all of that, but I wish we'd have been on more during the first half of the season, okay? So that's the first quote right there, right? And that, sparked some discourse in terms of the Inside the NBA crew, because after their deal with TNT expired I don't even think it expired. The NBA just didn't have a deal with TNT anymore. So, Inside the NBA became free agents. They announced that they're moving to ESPN. So everyone's like, oh, so Inside the NBA is still going to live on. Everything's going to be fine. They're just not going to be on TNT. They're going to be on ESPN. But, and I don't know if y'all noticed, Inside the NBA hasn't really been on air. And I thought it was just me not paying attention to the ESPN casting per se and their programming. But yeah, they just haven't really been on air. Haven't seen much clips from them. Charles Barkley coming out and saying it kind of confirms that yeah, they just haven't been on, right? Then we have Colin Cowherd making a comment on the Inside the NBA. So let's go ahead and watch this real quick.
You were always very critical of Barkley. Do you see he's complaining he's not getting on the air anymore? ESPN buried that show.
Why am I critical of Barkley? He was critical of the league.
Yeah.
But what did Barkley say? I don't think I saw it.
He wishes he worked more. And my feeling is, this is just conjecture, is that ESPN has a great relationship with the NBA, and they said, yeah, we'll bring that show over. You won't see it as much. Put it on the shelf a little bit.
Huh?
I mean, because Adam
during
Silver,
football season, nobody's nobody's caring. But NBA from February, March, April, May, June, I'm sure he'll be on a lot, right? I haven't seen a second of it this season. I watch the games. I don't,
Yeah, I did. It felt very, very big at one time, and now it's invisible. So I don't know. I'm just saying conjecture, but I know there were people upstairs in the NBA office that didn't like how they lampoon the league and some of the players.
Wait, you were talking to Adam Silver there?
I would say people upstairs didn't love sometimes. They would say NFL shows don't make fun of the players. Why are we making fun of the players? I heard that before.
Yeah,
Yeah. Shout out to Quad No Home for the raid, man. For the raid. I appreciate you.
What can we do?
Yeah. I'm just saying, it's just Charles is complaining. It's like it feels obvious to me that, you have these new deals, and there's a lot of understandings that don't have to be contractual. David Stern didn't like when people were critical of the NBA either. They're very sensitive in the NBA. Remember Adam Silver saying my players are miserable, Twitter. It feels like it's a thing. But, you're right. In February, they could be.
Are they strict? Are they strict? Because I would argue that they haven't been, and that's been the problem. I ain't gonna lie. That's been the problem with the NBA. So Colin Cowherd sees Charles Barkley's comments, says what he needs to say. I know there were people upstairs in the NBA office that didn't like how they lampooned the league and some of the players. They're very sensitive in the NBA. I will say, I vividly remember, it may have been Kenny, having an interview with Adam Silver, them discussing the state of NBA media, and Adam Silver specifically saying that the media, maybe not inside the NBA, but the media, he wished there was more positivity and not so much criticism on the league and so much hate, in the league and things of that nature. I do remember that. So then we have the guys on Inside the NBA actually addressing all of this. Charles Barkley didn't directly reference Colin Cowherd, but everyone's kind of assuming that, he's referring to Colin Cowherd in this clip.
I didn't get it right. Let me just say this. Well, I hate when people take things out of context.
Mm-hmm. We heard you. It's nothing out of context.
Can I explain? All I said was, so we're working 3 days this week, which is fine. I just wish they would break it up more. We've been off for 2 months. There was no reason for us to be off for 2 months.
Why not?
And then you got fools on television.
It was Christmas, man. I'm happy. Listen, it's a month.
First of all, Christmas.
Why was there no reason for us to be off?
Christmas is the worst holiday in the history of civilization. All you do is waste money, hate Christmas. You know that.
What does that have to do with us working Christmas Day 5 days?
Oh, we work Christmas Day.
I know. So you said it's been 2 months since we were on.
Yeah, but we only work once in 2 months.
It's been a month.
And let me tell you something.
14 hours in one day. And I feel overworked.
Can I look at this camera right here? Yes. Okay, there's some fools at home or on the internet. They're at home now, saying that we were talking bad about the players, so they made us work less. Shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. This is already scheduled.
Nice catch, by the way.
Because you know what, I really
know.
Do you realize how scheduled
pay
it
the
is?
fine, Chuck.
But
Chuck,
come on, man. These guys are like, well, you know, these guys, they gonna put them on the shelf because they don't want them on TV. Man, y'all need to shut the hell up. This was already planned months and months ago. All I said was, I would like to work more.
But we're gonna be so heavy on the back end.
I know.
We work.
Pause. Literally needed to pause. Pause. That was kind of crazy.
3 days next week.
I know.
Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday. Then we go all of the playoffs, all of the
Kenny,
finals.
The only point I made.
It's heavy back end.
I know. And we could have.
When the games really mean something.
Well, they all mean something.
No, they don't. Yeah, but they really mean something.
You don't think the cup mean anything?
Oh, you gonna watch the Sacramento New Orleans?
Boy, you can chat. We can see the problems in this clip when they really mean something. And then I don't know who said that. Then so you gonna watch the Hornets Pelicans, bro? What are we doing? Now I will say this: Charles Barkley is right. I do not think the season started inside the NBA started and they just started taking them off the schedule like it's a 9 to 5, right? Like, you know, they already had their schedule beforehand. They already had their programming set. And from the looks of it, they do have their schedule as a back-end heavy schedule where they're not going to do a lot of games early in the season, and then they're going to not taper off, but escalate as the season goes on, and they're going to be on air more. So fair to Charles Barkley. Fair to Charles Barkley. Now, I think it is interesting to have the schedule set up that way. And I do think it's an indication that NBA media is trying to move on from inside the NBA as a whole. I still think there's tangible value in inside the NBA and the crew that they got, and that's why ESPN picked them up. But I do think the space overall, they're trying to fade, trying to taper off, you know, inside the NBA, because I'm not gonna lie, I didn't want to say it. Inside the NBA is a bad product, y'all. Inside the NBA has been a bad product for years now, arguably a decade. And it has been one of the main reasons the NBA discourse, the NBA media is the way that it is. Full stop. We're talking about a show that notoriously hates on players a lot, to the point where NBA players themselves have addressed inside the NBA and the people on the panel. It's really mainly Chuck and Shaq. I'm gonna keep it real too. Ernie's the mediator. He's always in the middle with things. Kenny, he jokes around, he eggs on things, but he's not really instigating a lot of these hateful comments. It's really Chuck and Shaq. This is also a show that has openly admitted that they don't watch basketball. So their analysis on the game, you can't even take it seriously because there is legitimate questions on how much they actually watch the games. And I'm not talking about all 30 teams. You got to watch all 30 teams. I'm talking about the games that they're being paid to broadcast. There's questions about how much they watch that shit. And it'd be one thing if it's just, I wouldn't even say me and you because I get paid. Right? So I do think there's a level of responsibility with me keeping up with the NBA and everything going on. But I would even say there's levels between me and the motherfuckers getting paid $10-20 million a year. I don't know. If I'm getting paid $10-20 million a year to broadcast the NBA, talk about the NBA, I would think that the bare minimum is to watch the games I'm being paid to watch. And that's even in question. But I do think this overall, there's been an interesting discourse about the inside the NBA over the last couple of days and how the NBA is ready to just move on from this crew right here because they are the epitome of what's been wrong in the NBA media. And that is a lot of narrative pushing, hateful discourse, disrespectful discourse to NBA players that oftentimes isn't constructive based off of their delivery on their takes and also the lack of research that they do, admittedly, on the NBA. That's just unacceptable. And I don't know about y'all. They kind of mentioned it. Colin Cowherd kind of mentioned it in his clip. I've also talked about this before. Your responsibility as an NBA partner is different when you're working at the capacity that Chuck, Kenny, Shaq, Ernie are, where they're direct NBA partners. They represent the NBA on a national scale, as opposed to the regular fan, or as opposed to even myself as an independent NBA content creator. And this may seem like anti-truth, anti-transparency, but they shouldn't be shitting on the game. Like kind of full stop. Maybe that's a hot take. But as a direct NBA partner getting paid $10-20 million a year, that's like me as a brand. If I'm let's put this in content creator brain, right? I'm a brand. I'm sponsoring you directly or indirectly. I'm paying you $10-20 million a year to represent my brand, talk about my brand, this, that, and the third. And you're constantly shitting on it, that's a problem. That doesn't fly. And I don't know why they aren't treated with that lack of grace, how they've gotten away with the things that they've gotten away with over the years, because a lot of it truly is unacceptable. From a business lens, from a philosophical lens, this, that, and the third. Like, it's bad. So much so that, again, even with the clip that we just watched, we're kind of already seeing the little problems and why people feel the way that they do. But this is them that same night, by the way, y'all.
I tell you what, you had nothing to do today. Oh, my goodness. If you went to this game, you had nothing to do today. Justin Champagne, his brother, I tell you what.
So they're watching the Wizards and Hornets, right? This is some sort of NBA red zone. They're covering all the games. Chuck in the background. I tell you what, if you went to the Wizards Hornets game, you had nothing better to do today. Chat, what are we doing? What are we doing? These are the talking points that I'm talking about. You are constantly I don't want to hear this. And while, again, that's an acceptable thing to say from an independent person like myself, like you in the chat, like you, the viewer. But it's a different thing when these guys are on ABC, ESPN. They are representatives of the NBA at large. These are former players, y'all. Not just former players, NBA legends, award-winning analysts that the NBA has partnered with for decades now. That is a problem. And I truly do think that these talking points, these narratives, have had a lasting impact on the NBA media at large, because when we were transitioning from, national TV to the internet world needed to have some sort of blueprint as to how to create engaging content when it comes to analyzing the sport. And for a lot of us, I'll speak for myself, the blueprint was seeing what we saw on ESPN, seeing what we saw on TNT, seeing what we saw on First Take, seeing what we saw on Inside the NBA, and taking inspiration from that, maybe not even knowingly, but just kind of passively, and saying, hey, this is how you make interesting NBA content. They laid the blueprint. These talking points have had a ripple effect on how we talk about the NBA specifically, because these things, like everyone's been saying, don't necessarily exist in other sports. They just don't. A little bit different now, but I also think that's because there's common money to be made in sports content in general, and I do think certain blueprints are being seen across these sports now. So, if I'm an NFL creator, I see what's working on the NBA, boom, all I gotta do is change the names, change the teams, and if that shit works over there, it could work over here, easy, right? This is another comment from Sir Charles Barkley on Kevin Durant's career. You don't go to New York and play for the Nets. You go to New York to play for the damn Knicks. That's the first strike. Now he goes to Houston, and my Phoenix Suns got a better record without him. That's a damning indictment. So not only are you shitting on KD, but now you're also shitting on the existence of the Brooklyn Nets, which I think is the bigger problem. Like, Oh. So if you're gonna play New York, you don't play for the damn Nets. Like, all right, dog. We do not need all of this. And like I said, this has been an ongoing problem, y'all. The appeal for Inside the NBA has been comedy and shit not funny anymore. Like, I can only see Kenny running up to the board so many times to get a chuckle out of that. I can only get a chuckle so much from Shaq and a fool. I don't know. I can only get a chuckle so much from Shaq saying Chuck got no rings and then calling each other fat. I can only get so many chuckles from that content. I'm sorry. So this is a tweet from the Hood Therapist. He says, seeing everyone turn on Inside the NBA is lame. And we could just look at these quote retweets, because again, this is representative of the general sentiment around Inside the NBA. They provide no real basketball analysis. They was good for jokes, but then shitting on the product for years. People want NBA in-depth like MLB, NFL, and hockey. That's why there's YouTube channels about basketball analysis now. In no other sport do we broadcast former players shitting on the game and admitting on live television that they don't even watch the league they cover. Keep them old dudes off TV. I have no sympathy for sports analysts that brag and joke about not watching games. Well, they don't watch the games. They don't like the players they cover, and they suck at breaking down the game. What is there to like? Shaq and Barkley's banter still moves you after all these years? I mean, clock it. I don't know. I don't even think the lack of analysis is a problem or is the main problem. Because I do think, especially on the national scale, there is a need for people who can dumb things down. And I don't necessarily have a problem if your main appeal is entertainment. To me, the bigger problem is shitting on the game. You know what I'm saying? To me, the bigger problem is constantly shitting on the game in a non-constructive way. That's the main problem to me. But Chuck is right. They are, they're not off air because they're shitting on players directly. But I do think this discourse has, again, sparked an interesting discourse about Inside the NBA and what NBA fans want to see from their media. Just more positivity, more actual breaking down of the game. And I don't think that's really much to ask for. And, through my various research within the space over the last couple of years, one thing is clear to me. There is a way to make content about the NBA and talk about the NBA in a entertaining, in an engaging way, without shitting on the sports, without getting off these, oh, this dude's ass, this dude's a loser, just getting these jokes off. It's unnecessary. It really is. It really is.